Are you going to eat all that rice, you think? Oh, that's just how it came out. We're going to roll with it. Is there a nice flour to put on top of it? Nice herb. How come that won't work? It looks good. No, I'm putting this bowl.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another exciting episode of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud Developers Group. To kick off, just to get a signal, if everyone can hear me, can you just say in the chat that you can hear me, just so that fantastic. Thanks, Sascha. Thanks. Thank you. We've got about 19 people in the room now, and I might just wait a couple of more minutes, just so that we can let everyone check in. I think we've had about 150 RSVPs to this event, so it should just give a couple more moments just for a few more people to check in. Whilst we're waiting, don't forget to check out the sfmcdg.org. Now, SFMCDG stands for Salesforce Marketing Cloud Developer Group.org, where you can learn more about all the awesome events that are happening in Australia and online around the world. So whilst we're just waiting, no, wait, I'll let you do that yourself. So just click on the link and press the tabs and you'll find different events that you can join. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment that's really exciting. How are we going with our joiners? We've got 27 people here now. I think we might just kick off. So discover JSON. So we're sharing a tab. Once again, I'll just make sure that everyone can see what I'm presenting on the screen. So you should be able to see a tab that says JSON, discover JSON web tokens. Once again, is everyone seeing that? Yep. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Okay, cool. Just making sure that everything's working as it should be. Before we dive into our main presentation with Sascha, we'll have a quick, we've got a couple of quick things that we'll catch up on, a bit of stuff that we normally do at the beginning of the meetings. Once again, check out Salesforce Marketing Cloud Dev Group, where you can learn more awesome stuff that's going on. This session is where Sascha is exploring JWTs in Marketing Cloud. These were released recently, and there's a couple of new AMPscript functions there. I'm really looking forward, I think, as is everyone, to learning more about how we can use JWTs in Marketing Cloud. First, before we get into our main presentation, a Marketing Cloud Minute. So our Marketing Cloud Minute this month is brought to you by, and let's see if I can quickly get to the link, which I have here. No, I don't. I haven't preloaded that link. So while Sascha's talking, I'll get that preloaded so that we can have a share of that link and talk a little bit more about Marketing Cloud Minutes. So on the next slide. Last meeting, we talked about the GitHub Salesforce Marketing Cloud Developer Group SFMC recipe repo, and we have an example there for you to have a look at. Sharing this meeting, we'll share more in the email that goes out after the event with links, but very interested to hear from people that are interested in contributing and learning more about the SFMC repo, right? Recipe repo. I think that's enough, a recipe repo. Right at the moment, we've got a recipe in there that is simple. It's just an example recipe. So you can use that to package up you can use that to get some prepackaged content that can be loaded up in the Marketing Cloud. And in this case, it's just a hello world. But we're really interested in getting some more examples in there. And with some of the features that we can see in the pipeline in Marketing Cloud, we're looking forward to exploring this automation in a little bit more detail. So, Sascha, it's over to you. What I'll do is attempt to control how this works and give you control of the meeting. Sascha, have you got access there? I can see Elliot, you're online. Maybe Elliot, you've probably got a little bit more expertise.
Yeah, no, so I've made Sascha a presenter. So Sascha, you should be good to go.
Yes, and I had to rejoin because it kicked me out when you made me presenter. Okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Excellent.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
But we can't see your screen yet, so we're looking forward.
Yes, the share screen is obviously disabled because you're still sharing the screen on your end.
So I stop sharing, and that fixes that issue up. Fantastic, lovely tech.
Awesome.
I'm on mute, and I'll talk to you later. Looking forward to the Q&A.
Let's try to get this shared. Can you see my screen?
Not just yet.
Not yet.
I think it might. Not yet.
Okay.
Did it say give you an option to select one?
Just give me 1 second. I need to join another device. I'll come back in 2 seconds.
That's fine. All right.
That's okay. Whilst we're waiting, we can always crop this bit out. So we've got lots of editing capabilities. So, Sascha's back, and here he is. Excellent. Oh.
Okay. It says I can't skip.
Maybe we can make you a host. That might up the rights. I would have thought presenter mode, presenter mode off. Okay, here we go. Oh, presenter mode on.
Whilst we're waiting, a little ad for Whilst we're waiting, a little ad for Marketing Cloud Minutes. We mentioned it before. We'll share our Marketing Cloud Minute at the end of the meeting. But marketing is an opportunity for people to share and contribute and share ideas about what struck you as awesome about what you're doing with Marketing Cloud recently. So the format, it has to be in a minute. It's pre-recorded, and we run them during the meeting, and we put them in the mailbag. And the Marketing Cloud Minute's just about sharing a book, a bit of information, a link, just something that's really just grabbed your interest, and you just want to share with the community, because that's how we all learn. And it's just an opportunity to do that. Hashtag Marketing Cloud Minute. If you look that up on LinkedIn, you'll find one that I've done earlier, and connect with me there, or send a message email to the group, and we'll provide some details around how to do that. One that we've got in the pipeline is a group Marketing Cloud Minute. So it's from a group of devs at one business, and they're all just sharing their Marketing Cloud Minutes, which is a bit exciting. So looking forward to sharing that next month. And don't forget, if you've got some friends that you'd like to do a Marketing Cloud Minute with, just please feel free and reach out if you need some help with putting one together. It's just a bit too easy. How you doing, Sascha?
The browser says continue. I can't share the screen for some reason. We should have.
Would you like to forward? So away? Oh, you're going to be interactive, aren't you?
It's a demo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Demo.
You can't share the demo.
So Sascha, just a quick thing. So Chrome made an update today, which this uses Google Meet under the hood. Using Chrome, I assume.
I can use something else.
Well, no. It's fine. Are you on a Mac? Are you?
Yes.
Okay, so just open up System Preferences and then go to Settings. System Preferences. So you go to Privacy.
I already enabled this. The problem is that it still doesn't allow me, and I've tried a third browser now. I'm on the third browser trying this. I'm so sorry for that. We should have.
No, it's okay.
Do not be sorry. Do not be sorry.
Yeah.
It's just working through.
Everyone was thrown off today. Yeah, they didn't update. So but you do have screen recording allowed under security and privacy with Google Chrome, yeah?
Yes, I do.
And I mean, did you try quitting the browser, you shouldn't have to, but it doesn't.
How about logging in as a guest? Does that work?
No, that's
No.
not the problem. You see the share
No.
screen option, don't you, Sasha? But you can't. It won't let you share. It's just a Google Meet API behind the scenes. So. Oh, who are you looking at? Is this yours? This is Sasha's, is it? Is that you, Sasha?
Oh,
yay! We can see your screen, Sasha.
Awesome.
Yay! Well done. Oh, no. I had you a minute ago. Got it. Thanks, Sasha. You're on mute, but apart from that, we can see your screen.
Let's fix that up. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. Just took 3 browsers to get to there. Amazing. So thanks for that, and thanks for the hiccup in the. Sorry for the hiccup in the beginning. Thanks for coming, everybody. I want to introduce you to JSON Web Token and what it actually is. And I know that this is how we use it in Marketing Cloud, but I want to give you a rough background of JWT as well, so you have a bit understanding of that material as well. First thing first, my name is Sascha Huwald. I'm the Director of Technology at OSF Digital, also co-founder of Email 360 and the creator of the SSJS library. So let's start with what are JWTs. So JWT stand for JSON Web Token. Some say it's called JWT, and I heard all different type of names for this, but for the purpose of this presentation, I will continue talking it as JWT. So very simple, JWT is just JSON data combined with a cryptographic signature. And the JSON data itself is not encrypted, and that's important to understand. So when I talk about cryptographic signature, you may ask, what are cryptographic signature? So imagine this, I send you a physical letter, and in this physical letter, I have my handwriting on it, and on the bottom, I sign this. You're receiving the letter, and you know how I'm writing, you know my handwriting, you know my signature, how I sign documents. And because of that, you can trust the content on this letter is actually coming from me. This is in a nutshell what a cryptographic signature is. So how do we actually create a JWT? So a JWT is built out of 3 parts. You have a header part, you have a payload, and you have a signature. And as you can see here, the header and the payload are both just JSON blobs. So you have a JSON data set for the header, which has the ALG, which stands for algorithm.
Sasha, sorry, so we're just seeing your first screen saying JSON Web Token. I don't know, just if you're showing some slides, what we're seeing is the view only of your, on the right-hand side, all the slide thumbnails from 1 to 6.
You want to see that?
That one, there we go. Fantastic, thank you. Now it's advancing.
So, okay, I'll have to do then this. It's okay, let me try. Some should say we should be better at this, right? So can you see it now?
Yep, we can see that now, yeah.
Did you have seen the slides before, these ones as well? Or
we didn't, but I think it was easy to follow.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'll just quickly go back to the JWT slide. So it's just this slide. And then my little joke here about the cryptographic signature wasn't seen. That's interesting. So just leave that for a second. And then I'm losing animation, but that's also okay. So so if you're looking at how to create a JWT, so create a JWT is built out of 3 parts: the header, the payload, and the signature, as I explained. So the header is just a simple JSON, is the same as the payload itself, as you can see here. So both of those will then be base 64 encoded and are created with a secret into a signature. And that sets me off a bit because I had all the animation planned. So let me quickly go through this step by step. There's a lot of overwhelming data there right now. But so your header is base 64 encoded. Keep in mind, base 64 encoding is no encryption, meaning you do not encrypt your payload or your header. You just do an encoding with base 64. Both together with a dot and your secret, which only belongs to you, and only you should, or your company should know this secret, will build the signature. And it's building with a hashing algorithm. And the hashing algorithm is defined in the ALG statement of the header, which is a HHS256. That's the algorithm we're using to create actually then this JWT signature, which now is encrypted. So if you now have an encrypted signature, the header and the payload, how it looks like is you have a base 64 header, your base 64 payload, and your signature, which is now encrypted. You put dots in between them, and you're creating your JWT. So I want to get some definitions clear. So a JWT can have two states. It can be stateless, or it can be stateful. The difference is stateless, the token itself has all data self-contained, and it's all information it needs to fulfill this request. It's part of this token. A stateful version of this token only has an identifier like a subscriber key or a session ID or a token in there, which then needs a database or a service to actually retrieve more data. So therefore, it's stateful. And the last definition I want to explain are claims. So claims is basically everything inside a JWT except the signature. So a claim could be the subscriber key, the expiration date, the issuer, and so on and so forth. There are three different types of claims. One is a registered version of it, which is defined by the JWT RFC, where we have things like expiration time, issuer, the ALG. These are the acronyms for these are defined in the RFC and they're registered. The public one are listed in the Internet Authority, naming definition authority. I can give you the link to this, which has then written down to define certain words to be allowed inside a claim of a JWT. These type of things, for example, are PID, which is a short version for process IDs. And then you have your private claims. Private claims are things like subscriber key, data extension key, or whatever you came up with your own name, and you can put that into the payload of your JWT as well. The thing you need to notice is on a private claims can collide. So the collision in private key means that if you have an intended purpose for something you call subscriber key, if someone else would take this token, the subscriber key could have complete different meaning on their system, while registered and public has specific meanings and they are agreed on. Keep that in mind. So the question then becomes, what can we use JWT for? So as I said, you can prove that some JSON data can be trusted. How can you prove this? Well, you have a payload and a header, which is not encrypted, send it towards you, but you have also an encrypted signature attached to it. And the signature is built out the header and the payload, as well as your secret key only you own and know. So if someone is trying to change the payload in something else, let's say there's something like role user and he wants to be smart and put admin in, because the signature is built out of the payload, the header, and the key, the signature will become different. So when you verify a token, the JWT token, you're basically comparing these two signatures, the original signature plus the signature sent towards, generated with the data you have there. And if you want to have a real life example, how that can apply to real life. So imagine you're driving down the highway and you're driving way too fast. And the police is stopping you and saying, hey, you're speeding. I have to give you a ticket. Please give me your driver license so I can issue you a ticket. So you hand over the driver license and the police officer will look at the driver license. And when he actually looks at the driver license, he will see my name, my date of birth, my address, All these things are claims. All these is that the driver license claim to be me, that's actually the data is correct on this. There's no signature on that really, but the signature for the police officer will be the issuer of this driver license. Let's say New South Wales in Australia. So the government of New South Wales basically issued this driver license, and they have a watermark on there, or they use a certain type of identifier number on there. And for the trained eye of the police officer, he knows, okay, this actually is a truthful document, because he now can verify that the data presented to him on this driver license is actually signed by the signature of the authority who actually issued this document, in that sense, the driver license. The second part where we actually can use JWT is in server-to-server communications with a short expiration claim. EXP stands for expiration, and it's defined in the JWT RFC that if it is a unique timestamp, which then if you reach this unique timestamp, the token has expired and cannot be used anymore because it's being already expired. So for a server-to-server integration, think of it as a cloud page to cloud page, or one cloud page like a preference center. So if you're looking at a preference center, you have a front end and you have a back end. Sometimes you use two cloud pages to communicate to each other. Sometimes there's one cloud page where you just have a little if statement to ensure that if the form was fired off, that you do something afterwards. Irrespective of that, you have kind of two jobs. One is visualizing it to the customer, and the second one is basically processing the data. Because the site is publicly available, accessible, there's a way that you can actually access the backend part of this page as well. So, and if you do this, how does this page make sure that the person who claims it is coming from the front end is actually from the front end? So this is where JWT comes really handy, because you can give the token, which is very short-lived, to this mix and say, I'm basically claiming that this subscriber key now wants to go into the database and retrieve information. And because I give you a signature, which is cryptographically signed, the backend service can then verify this with the same key on the same server to verify that the token is, the claim is correct, and therefore can service the data back to the front page. That protects then attacks from outside to go there and just request for this information. The other time where we use JWT are for API authentication, similar what we're using in Salesforce Marketing Cloud for anything under install packages. And then you can use it, and what I want to demo today is the customer access to cloud pages. One thing I want to mention, and we can talk about this in the QA, is please do not use JWT for session management. It has been used so many times. There's so many people in the crypto industry who knows better and say that it shouldn't be used. And I can give you certain links why. For session handling, there's something we developed, like the industry had developed like 20 years ago. It's called session cookies. It has been proven, it has been done really well. And please use that, not JWT for simple session handling. So let me show you how JWT works with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So when you actually go to Salesforce Marketing Cloud, the chance is that you already have seen a REST, like a token, a JWT token. Every time you go to the Salesforce Marketing Cloud REST API and retrieve an auth token, it looks something like this. So you have a first part, your second part was dots, and then you have a signature part. And if you actually, as I said, it's not encrypted, at least the payload and the header, you can actually decode this with something like base64 decode in AMPscript, and you will retrieve the data behind it. So for that's an example of how the auth token from Marketing Cloud REST API looks like. So you have your JWT with the algorithm, a version, and you have your payload. And you will see that something is missing here. There's missing an expiration time. So if you're looking at the expiration time, you will think, well, hold on. Salesforce tells us we only can have this token for 20 minutes. So if the token doesn't have any expiration time here, how does it work? Well, they basically installed an internal cookie management as well. So you will see the access token, which is basically used for the expiration part. So they're storing this cookie inside the database, and then using that against their 20 minutes. And the reason why we are being told to not use like a new token every time you run an API call for Marketing Cloud is because every time you will generate a new token, which every time will create a new database record, which will live for 20 minutes in the database, which then will be eventually vacuumed out. But that will create a lot of overhead, and they're monitoring this obviously. And if you do that too often, you probably get a bit of a warning there, especially if you run 1 million requests, and then eventually you will not be even able to get a token as per documentation. So be mindful of that. So that's how they control the expiration there. So they're storing this access token in an internal database with the client ID and information when it was issued on their end. So the function in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, the two new functions, and that's a bit of a overlap because there was a lot of animation in the slide, but I go quickly through this like this. So we have two new functions. One is GetJWT, and the other one is GetJWTByKeyName. They're technically identical. There's no difference really in them. The only difference between them is that the first one, GetJWT, is using a hard-coded string as a secret. And the second one is using an external key identifier from your key management. I will always, and I can't stress it enough, always recommend to use GetJWTByKeyName. The reason why I would say this is because if you hard code a secret into your code, it's not really a secret anymore. If you store it in your data extension, it's not really a secret anymore because I can log into this data extension and see it. If someone has API access, he can read out this data extension if he has the access to read it. It's not really a secret anymore. And the only reason why probably Salesforce has introduced GetJWT in the first place without GetJWTByKeyName is to enable team members who have not access to the key management system to also create JWTs. This in itself is questionable because if you don't have access to key management, you probably should not generate JWTs based off keys. But that's not for me to decide. I just can highly recommend you to only use GetJWTByKeyName and store the key as a symmetric password inside the key management. So the function itself, and both are the same, is GetJWT. You have a string, which is a key, string for the algorithm, and a string for the JSON payload. And how you write it in AMPscript is just simply GetJWTByKeyName, then your external reference to your key management system, your hashing algorithm, and your JSON payload. And if you've done that, the output of this will be this string here. So that's all good. That's are the two functions they introduced in the spring release. But if you look at it, it's only the beginning. And the reason why it's only the beginning, because right now you have no way or no easy way to decode a token, to add any expiration or NBF claims to it. So NBF stands for not before. So meaning the token is not enabled before something. You can't change the expiration really easily to something like milliseconds. You need to know how the expiration unique timestamp works, and in AMPscript can be a challenge to create a unique timestamp and run this in milliseconds over for services like Google. And you can't verify or sign a token right now. And the other problem is, if the intention from Salesforce was to create a token for an external service, that's okay, but then the external service is not the issuer. So we issue in the token with a signature. In order for them to verify that the payload is correct, they need the secret. So how do we get the secret over to them? Well, we have to share it in some way. There's only a few real ways to share a secret, and one is RSA encryption. But the problem is we don't have RSA yet. We only have HMAC. So again, only the beginning. I hope they will extend this to this way that we actually can use it in this functionality. But the other thing is, if you want to use it into your internal cloud pages I explained between preference centers, you can't decode it and verify it. So at this stage, the AMPscript version of it is a bit lost. But here comes the but. The reason why it's really good actually that they introduced it is because in order to do so, they had to create the HMAC algorithm towards it. And I have tried to reproduce this for months now, and I don't say these words, but it's painful and didn't really work, and it's slow because of a lot of limitations. But with this now, we can actually use it to create proper JWT tokens in SSJS. So I will give you a quick live demo of how to use an SSJS and also what I've seen in Preference Center where it could be useful. Let me just close this up or share this, stop sharing the screen. And let me see if I can get this running. Give me a second. Cool. I should have done that before because now the presentation seems to work as well. All right, cool. Is it large enough or do you need, should I zoom in a bit? I can zoom in.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah, good.
Yeah, cool, awesome. So the way how you create a token, as I said, you call the function GetJWTByKeyName. The first part, as I explained, is simply your external key to your external key of your key management, then your algorithm, and there's 3 available, HS256, 368, I think, and 512. I'll have to look that up, but we share the links to the function itself as well afterwards. And then you have your JSON payload you're putting in. And for this purposes, I just put subscriber key in here, which is my test. And then I just output my JWT. So if I go now to the cloud page, which I just created here, and I open it up, what I will get is a JWT token. So that's great, right? But as I explained, you can't really debug or decode this. So what I can do is actually, I can do an output of it onto a base 64 decoding part and just take one of those parts in there. So let's say the first part, which we know is the header. And now let's take the second part, which is the payload. The third part, we can't really decrypt because we don't know the secret. And it's not used for decryption. It's just basically you encrypt everything together again. So now we have this 2 parts. We have the header and the payload. So if I'm going now and refresh this, we actually get an error. And so why do we get an error? Well, one time because I didn't do any debugging, right? I don't do any try, catch blocks, anything like this. But what happened is a base 64 string needs to be dividable by 4. So this one, as you see on the bottom, is 36, while this one is only 35. So Salesforce, with its own GetJWTByKeyName, is producing a base 64 string, which is not correctly padded. And there's several reasons why they're doing this, and I understand this, but when you're working with this, you need to be aware of this as well. So a padding string in base 64 is an equal sign. So you pad it, every time you're not ending up divided by 4, you add additional pads at the end. So if I go now in here again and refresh it, now I actually get my algorithm at the back and then my subscriber key as defined in my AMPscript function. So now I could easily decode it. But wait a second, I decoded it, but I didn't verify it, right? Because I have to actually use this one now, create a new signature out of it, and compare this part of the token with the signature I create out of these 2 parts of the token. But I can't do this in AMPscript because I can't physically add a header. And that's basically meaning I can't really get a signature out. So at this stage, I kind of stuck. I can basically try now to get in and just use the payload and hope that the header stays always the same, and therefore we always get the same way out. And that's a possibility. As I say, there's no easy way. There is a way, but it's a very hacky way. However, what we can do instead, create a second cloud page, and I just take this token here quickly, and I will give you a quick rundown of what I'm doing here. So as I said, I have I created the SSJS library, and inside that, I have created a new classes called JWT, which has the functions like decode, encode, verify, and sign. And I will give you links to that as well, so you see that. And as well, I have a LinkedIn post, which is a version which is stripped out of the library, which you can use outside the library if you choose not to use the library. So what we're doing is we load the normal core, we load the library. I just have enabled a debugger and have the JWT, and then we define the token, which I just generated, and I just want to debug the JWT decode token. So let's see how that works. So I go to my second tab, open that up, and look at the console, because I'm debugging in the console right now. And you see I get my object back here, which might test. But you will see that I also have something like warn, JWT decode, no key given, payload has not been verified and cannot be trusted. Well, let's quickly fix that up and just add a key toward this. So now we do the token and we put the secret towards this, which is the secret we used to sign this token in the first place. So if I go back to the page and refresh it, we now have a payload verified, and we actually can use this now and it can be trusted. So if you want to then go in and say, well, let's test this out and give another key, another secret, because Sascha can tell me everything right now, that doesn't make it right. So let's test a different key here. Like this is another internal data key, external ID, which loads a different key. And if I refresh this, what will happen then is we actually get a fatal, which it throws an error, and it says the signature verification has failed. So with that, easily we can create decode tokens and can create tokens. So I can go in and create a token, and I will do this in a second. I want to show you one more thing. So I have created a cloud page, and the cloud page itself is basically a preference center. And what I see quite often happen is people coming in and saying, okay, if I have a preference center, I use subscriber keys underscore subscriber key to get the subscriber key out of a query string parameter. Then I look up a data extension, get my email, my name and country. And yes, that's not correct. You should actually do a lookup row, but that's okay for the demo purpose. That's fine. And then I just output a demo cloud page, which right now is just in HTML, which fills in these fields in here, which I'm getting from this lookup. So if I go back to my cloud page here and just open that up, what do I get? I get a little cloud page, which is your account. It's a demo, has nothing filled in because we didn't put any subscriber key in here. So how normally that works, someone creates an email, creates preference URL, cloud page URL with an ID towards it, and then goes in, and I don't get somehow this working as a HTML, but I can use this one as a text version, go in here, load this up, and now I have my Rachel and Mexico from this data extension. That's great. But how that works is basically you have a query string in here, which uses your query string ID, and then this is already reading this out. That's great. But there's a security issue with this, and not a lot of people are aware of this. But you can actually use the backdoor Marketing Cloud has put in there, which is called SK. So let's go to the data extension and take anyone else. Let's take Fiona. And don't worry, these are just imaginary data. It's not real data. And let's go back here and just put the subscriber key in here. And Rachel now becomes Fiona. So even if I received the email as Rachel, now because I can just use SK for this, you're basically creating a backdoor for everybody to read out and sniff out your data in your database. And some may say, well, you need to know the subscriber key. Well, that's structured really similar through all Salesforce systems. And it's not really hard to create a number of variations and just brute force your way through this. With a lot of machine power, you can just do that very quickly. And because normally cloud pages are not controlled by any load balancing and these type of things, you basically open up a can of worms there to get data out, especially for preference centers. So then you may say, well, hold on, Sascha, I'm not using the subscriber key part. I'm actually putting a parameter in, right? So let's try this out. So I'm putting a parameter in. And let's use this part for that. Oops. I'm losing my cursor here right now. Come on. So let's use a parameter subscriber key underscore subscriber key. Again, this has nothing to do with the subscriber key in your cloud page. It's just reading out the data extension part. So we create a subscriber key parameter, right? And now we go to the same URL, but before, obviously, I need to change my code here for cloud page to also allow this. So now we're reading the query string parameter of subscriber key. Let's go to the page again. We're getting again our Rachel, but let's take this time Elliot, and we go in. And now instead of using SK, which will not really work anymore, but we can use subscriber key. And now we do the same thing again. Now we get Elliot out. Because the query string, again, doesn't really have any protection in it if you use query string parameters to retrieve these objects. So the next step you can say, well, then we don't use subscriber key as a word. We use something completely different, like mumbo jumbo. And that's okay. You can use this. But then you create two problems. You internally need to address this, that someone looking at this project understand what this parameter is. And secondly, you don't make it secure. All you do is you obscure it for the future because it makes it a bit harder to guess this. Again, I can brute force this through, no problem with that. So what options do you have? Well, we can use JWT for it. And I've written this little code sample here. So let's put this in. So what we're doing is we're actually loading the library again. We're creating a new JWT. We decode the request query string parameter of JWT with the key provided in this instance. And that's a value subscriber key, and then do the same thing again, do the lookups. So if I'm now going in, and I obviously need to go to another email because I need to now generate a token with GetJWTByName, with again PWD as a secret, then hashing algorithm, the encryption, and then my simple connection or a concatenation of subscriber key and the subscriber key as a JSON blob, and then use cloud page with JWT and token. So if I go here and again, for some reason, HTML version is not working, but that's fine. And I go here and open up the cloud page. What I will get, I get Rachel and Mexico again. So now if I change anything of that, let's just say I do my old trick again and say subscriber key. Let's do this one. What I will get now is no token was provided and supplied. Well, someone will look at it and say, yeah, that's cool because you don't provide the JWT parameter you're expecting from this cloud page, right? So, okay, fair enough. We can say JWT and use this one. Then we get the token structures invalid. Well, let's be a bit smarter, right? Let's go to our cloud page, the other cloud page, and just generate a new token, which is a different key. Like, assuming I'm a attacker and have not your secret, which you shouldn't have, and I just create this with a different subscriber key. I go to this page now and just refresh this and take my other key on the bottom here. Just making sure that I copy that correctly without all the white noise. Well, that's problematic. Let's just fix this up quickly in here. Cool. So now I have this token and go back to the page and say, okay, I'm super smart. Now I'm going in here and use this token. Well, what you get now is that the signature is verification failed because the payload maybe is different, and because of that, and the key is different, it doesn't match. So you have this issue. So now your page is basically protected. And if you're talking about the JWT library, we actually can go one step further. So instead of doing it just this way, we can take this code, and I will provide all the code examples for you guys. But what you can do is you load the library and you initiate a new cloud page, and you say this cloud page should be protected with JWT, and you should use this key. So the idea behind this why is that you can actually define different pages with different keys. So issued tokens from JWT tokens are only valid for the keys that are actually issued towards it. So you could have something like a dashboard key, right? Dashboard PWD, it's a symmetric key. Or you can use something like login or things like that, right? So you have different keys for different purposes and different sites. So if you do this now and you go back to the page, you only load the payload, JWT, and the subscriber key. If you go back to the page here and take the token again, so what you get is basically your normal page. If you now would forge a token and you change this over, and I hope I can get it this time better. Yep, cool. And I go in here and say, haha, I'm a little hacker, and I try my JWT with my token, which is clearly not right. What happened then is instead of getting an ugly message, I get a signature verification failed. So this is all built in the library, very easy to use, and that's something I want to share with the community eventually more, that is being get more traction because it's super helpful in so many ways. So from that level, this is basically finishing off the JWT integration. One thing I want to mention, there's a few things. First of all, if you want to really learn more about JWT itself, I recommend to go to JWT.io, which is basically the website for it, and where you can get some information about how it works, as well the RFC, which is a very technical document around the specification of it. So that's a website I would recommend you guys. The other thing I want to mention, if you're talking about sessioning, and that's something I highly recommend, I share that as well. It's a very nice flowchart in why JWT is not really good at sessioning and using as a session. And here is a really good article for that if you want to read this. If you want to learn more about the Email 360 SSJS library, we'll share the GitHub with you as well, where you can just easily find it and the use cases of it. And if you have installed the SSJS library and you either way don't want to go through GitHub itself, we have another product coming up, which is a search, and I know a lot of people have used this before. But for example, you can just easily go in and add your account toward this. It's still in the beta, so you can get listed if you want to have interest in, but this is still in beta version. But you can click on that, and then you go and you find, like, very quickly data extensions, and that's all live from this instance. So it's super fast. So you can search for Email 360 and find everything in that. The other thing you can search for example, is if you want to look for a timestamp, and you find everything where timestamp is used in a data extension as well. So it looks for everything in your account. So it's connecting via API, and it's also helpful to search for any information in JWT and in Email 360's library itself. So you could do like, if you want to look for JWT, you also get then, in a second, you get the assets back. So you can basically go in and then show the content as well from the code and find it. Again, it's still in a alpha beta version, which we will just finish off eventually. But if you have interest, just reach out. So yeah, that's basically me. I'm happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sascha. That was very informative and very impressive. I mean, how you've been able to, I guess, reverse engineer and extend the capabilities of these two functions, or kind of one function, I guess, spread across two. So I guess my first question to you, and I've got, this is making some assumptions here, but why do you think, out of all of the possible AMPscript functions that Salesforce could have developed, why do you think that they've taken the time to go and release these two somewhat obscure functions in the Spring 22 release?
That's actually a really good question. I think one part is hype. JWT is still a really hot topic. It's still a really cool solution for some good and some not so good reasons. And secondly, I think there are, because they're using it internally for the API connections, they're using it for Heroku connections. They're using it for if you want to use your own journey activity, you have to touch down on JWTs. And it's a very simple tool to actually create, especially in the way they have done it right now. So I think that is a reason why they've done it. But in the end, I think this question needs to be asked to the people who developed it in the end, why that make it on the roadmap and other things not.
Okay, cool. I mean, all of this is speculation. And if I were to speculate, and again, this information isn't public, perhaps a key customer came to them and said, we need this capability. And of course, there's been no way to go and to perform this in Marketing Cloud. And the reason why someone would actually want this, I'm thinking, is perhaps to do with API integration. So the Google Cloud API doesn't use an OAuth flow, it uses these JWTs or JSON Web Tokens. So if you want to interact with these APIs that it's becoming very popular now to use JSON Web Tokens, then you can't do it from Marketing Cloud. So again, purely speculation, but perhaps that's another reason.
Exactly, and because there was, like, for a lot of solutions, there are some form or shape of workarounds you could use. For this, the reason why it was not possible is because for the HMAC functionality, where you actually have to create the cryptographical the encryption for it. And yes, you have SHA-256 already, and HMAC in general is not rocket science, really. Again, I could do another session on how HMAC works and how these kind of things working together with a key. But the bottleneck that comes in how the SHA-256 and others are implemented so far, which do not allow bits and bytes to coming in, just strings, and therefore you get different results, and then you're ending up in a lot of trouble, which cost me probably 2 or 3 months of my life to figure out that it's not possible to do it, or it's not worth it to do it. There's a question from Daria. Yes, it's a symmetrical key in your key management. I can't really show it on the instant because there's a lot of stuff in this instant. I have no ownership around it, and I don't want to go into key management. But yeah, it is symmetrical.
Sascha, I had to smile at your comment about that deep dive into losing 3 months of your life to find something out. I think we've all been there, just trying to work stuff out, and certainly what you've got here is really good. I've sort of become aware of your SSJS library, and I'd love to know more about that. And I can see that you're using that as part of this. And just in the notes that we do share after this, the links, it'd be good to give a little bit more information in there about what functions and what library methods are there to use.
And on that, I mean, Sascha delivered a very informative session on his library last year, so you can head over to sfmcdd.org and watch that.
I missed that.
Really recommend. If you're not up to speed with that, do go check that out.
Just a few things. So first of all, there's a question from Noral. We will share all the links and all the code snippets, what I've showcased on the SFMC DC website under this session, including this recording. So if I went a bit too fast in certain parts where you couldn't follow exactly what I was doing, feel free to go back there. This will all be linked there, including the library, the search, and everything. And as Elliot mentioned, yes, there has been a recording, but what I plan to do is, if time allows, I will do a few YouTube videos around how to set up the library and how to use it and present the way how that works. So stay tuned for this.
Also, just to do, and I do want to add, I mean, this isn't, you don't have to exclusively use it with your library, do you? You very nicely provided a non-library version on a LinkedIn post, I recall.
Yes,
exactly. If you just want to do it in raw JavaScript, yeah.
Yeah. So the code will be provided as well as I've done it on LinkedIn, also on the sfmtdc.org website, where we will show this code outside the library if you don't want to or can't install it on your side. It's a bit more bloated because a few parts of this requires so-called JavaScript polyfills, which are nicely tucked away in the library. With this, it will be having in this code snippet, but it's okay. It's still readable and still quite understandable, even if it's a bit more bloated. But it can definitely be working without the library itself. It's just it's a logical approach of how you build the JWTs. But again, we will provide this. Then there's a question from Hari Krishnan. Is it recommended using JWT as a functionality to allow deep linking to website pages? So for example, a welcome email is sent to a customer and we would want to allow the consumer to visit the web page without logging in, and we can use JWT in this case. So website verifies the token and decodes the JWT. Yes, that is possible. Again, be mindful of a lot of things. So as I said, The reason why you shouldn't use it as sessioning is very long, and I share this on the SFMC website as well. But you want to have this lock-in, like JWT in general should have a very short expiration time. If you go in and create JWTs with a long expiration time, you're kind of exposing a lot of security risk there, because there's something called a reply attack. So similar to a hash password, if I get your password, if I get your token, and it's basically available for 20 years, I have access to whatever this token has access for 20 years. And because if it's then long-lived, let's say, even if you have a token which is available for, let's say, 5 years, and there's a role admin because he was an admin in this company and he has access to his dashboard, now he leaves the company, you can't really revoke this user in a stateless environment. You need to have this somehow stored on your end to revoke this token, and that it doesn't have access, because technically it's still able to verify that the token is correct, even if the data inside this token has been outdated. So that's a reason, one of many reasons why you shouldn't use it for session management. And what you're technically doing is session management there. As a single sign-on, there are better ways to do this. And there's a different, there's other solution out there as well, which you can look into. But yes, you could do it with JWT, but I would not recommend to use JWT. You always should authenticate yourself while you go into this website, and then generate a session cookie for this from your website. And another issue with the solution you're requesting there is, who guarantees me that no one else sees my email? Like if I share the web view link, if someone else gets access to my email, they basically can have a no barrier login to a website. So these type of things where you have no barriers, preference pages are very problematic security-wise, because you do not know if the person who clicks it in the end on this email is actually the person who clicked it. Yes, the content of the email is verified, that the intended person is used to it, but if the person is actually the same, that's a problem. So put it back into the real world. Yes, if I have a driver license which is verified and the police officer can actually verifying it, if I scratch the picture of it away and put my picture on it, police officer has no idea that it's not the right person. And that's the same then there. Like someone else get hold of this token in some form or shape, they have access to it. So possible, but not recommended. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have one, Sascha. Again, you're the subject matter expert in this field, and I'm just curious. I've read about JWE, JSON Web Encryption versus JWT. You're able, can you achieve JWE in Marketing Cloud by any means, or not? Or
yeah, it's possible, but it follows the same flaws. So I will share a different type of it, which I'm looking into to actually implement. And it's all about that the body is also encrypted. And there's a project, and it's Presto. I have to find it, and I will link it into this into the group as well as an alternative. But it's not yet available in Marketing Cloud, and it's not being developed yet in the way that it can. And a lot of these type of things, again, and that's the reason why I was a bit disappointed when they actually introduced the JWT, is that they didn't introduce the HMAC function, because this will allow us so much more. Imagine if we have an HMAC function, meaning we can actually use a key and a payload and mix them into a proper encrypted function. That allows us not only to do JWTs, which we now have a solution for, but that allows every other type of web tokens or web encryption, as well as one-time passwords. So Google Authenticator. If you want to have a website with a Google Authenticator inside Marketing Cloud, if we would have HMAC, I have a solution already ready for it. I just need a HMAC function, And then I could publish this, and we all have one-time passwords with a QR code generator and everything. Great, but I don't have an HMAC function in Marketing Cloud. And the reason why I don't have that is because the SHA 256 or 5112 is built in an old-fashioned Marketing Cloud that we can't really use it to put bit arrays in there. And as I said, I spent hours and hours and hours and weeks and weeks and weeks trying to figuring out all the way to bit shifting and XORs and things like that, which you learned in IT school years and years ago. And it's a pain. It's a pain. And I've reached out to many people who are expert in these type of fields, in the cryptographical field, and every solution I come across was some form of not working in Marketing Cloud. So was a bit disappointed. To answer your question, in theory, yes, possible. We need HMAC or any equivalent way of encrypting.
Okay, thank you.
So the other question is, how do you decrypt the signature? Sure, I can quickly show that. I know we're running over. I'm not sure how that's normally conducted. If you stay on, whoever wants to stay on, if it's officially closing it up now, or if there's more question.
Sascha, we'll continue on as long as people are interested to continue on. We'll go for another half hour, I guess, but there will be a recording and that will be shared with everyone. So if you feel like dropping off, we'll hold off on the member mailbag for next month. So we'll just continue the Q&A, I think, for now. And look out for, if you do drop off, just look out for the email that will have the updates from the meeting. But yeah, Sascha, please continue. This is excellent information.
And before you do, unfortunately, I'm going to have to drop off just in a couple of minutes. So yeah, thanks for an excellent presentation, Sascha.
Awesome, no worries, thanks. So Ivan, you asking in your library, how do you encrypt and decrypt a signature? Well, you can't really decrypt the signature. You can, but I can't, I didn't provide any use case for decrypting the signature. You're basically recreating the signature again in order to compare the value. So that's the reason why it calls HashMac, because you do two hash values and compare two hash values. So the way how you would do it, so let's have JWT here and just remove this part here for now. And you would basically say JWT, and just for the use case right now, it's not so clever to use the right word there. Give me a second, I just want to get the correct class allocation so it's easier, so I don't have to remember everything. Cool, here we go. Okay, so we have then, so we can decode, encode one, right? So let's encode one quickly. So we need a string, which is the algorithm. So we know that we want to have HS256, for example, and then you take the key, which we know is ENT-PWD for this instance, and then you need a payload, which is just a simple a value, right? So let's do it this way. So now you can also add an expiration time to it, as you see on that. So the expiration time is a number in time in seconds. So let's say 60 seconds it expired. So let's save this and just debug that out into the console. What you would basically get then is, oops, you get your token, right? So you have your token here. So let's now do something else. So you have JWT, and the other one is obviously decode, right? So we talked about this. So you encode it, now you can decode, which just gives you the payload. But you can also verify. So in order to verify, you need the token itself. And then with the token, you then can say, well, now you need your key, the symmetric key of which your signature has been encrypted with. And you can use just ENT-PWD, and if you lock this out again to the console, you basically go in, and now you get true or false as soon as I'm not too quick. So now you get true, because it is correct. So if I use the other key, which I need to find which it was, didn't put that down. Great, I didn't put that down. Give me a second. I just do a quick reverse here to find it. Let's take this one. So go back where we were. So if I use a different one and then refresh it, I will get false back, or actually get an error because I have missed one line. Okay, cool. So if I do it again, I now get signature verification failed because the signature is failed because it is not being verified. And then the last one you could do as well is, if you really want to go down that, you can actually sign. So JWT sign. What happened now? Lock JWT, that doesn't exist. Sorry, my bad. It's late already. So verify signature. So verify the JWT signature against private secret. So you could go in, but now you need the token again, and then you need a string. So basically is similar to what verify is doing. And it's kind of a redundancy there. But if you look at the code, you will see why I've chosen to do it this way. Normally you would say, okay, you provide just the signature and compare the signature against it. But at this stage, it is this way. And it's this library itself, like the JWT part itself, it's not something I've written out of my head and saying, wow, I've just come up with a way how it works. I know how JWT works in a nutshell. I understand the RFC. I understand everything around it. But I'm not a crypto expert. So I'm by no means, I've worked in security before. I will not put that hat on that I'm an expert in that. So I always rely on libraries which are well known in the JavaScript world, which are heavily used, and the ones being used for JWT, I've basically copied that logic and applied it towards Marketing Cloud. So it's nothing in there which is a spin of my own, and you exposing yourself to a lot of security risk there because just this weird guy here have created this. But yeah, that's how you basically do that with JWT. And the library itself has, like, I just introduced something over the last couple of weekends. I basically create something which is lock. So if you have heard about Log4j, which has obviously went through a lot of news because of the vulnerability they had in the Apache servers. But for JavaScript, there's something like Log4j, and I kind of made a kind of dumbed down version of that for for SSJS. So works a similar way. So you have levels of things you want to debug, or like levels of your logs, and you have appenders and things like that. But how it actually works, you can say something like, this is a debug, and then let's say you have this is a warning. Oops, this is a warning. And then let's say, oh, sorry, that needs to be obviously a warning as well, it can't be a debug. And then let's say we have error, right? So you can say this is an error. But what you can do now is you control what you want to show. So you can say, well, I want to have every error or every log above debug or debug itself. So right now that will give me all three outputs, and it just gives me this is a debug, this is a warning, this is an error. But if I say I only want to have errors, so if you do this again, then you will only showcase errors and nothing else. And if you disable the levels entirely, you can actually then disable this completely as well. But I will do some YouTube videos around how this works. You can use appenders. So basically what appenders are in the Log4j world is you generate a log, you define what should be shown by an appender. So an appender could be writing into a data extension. I can write it to an HTTP endpoint. I can send an email. I can put it in the console. I can put it in the browser as HTML. I can put it in the browser as JSON. And each appender can have different levels of what it's listening for. So let's say the email should only send out fatal errors, fatal logs. So every time something is fatal, you send out an email. But if it's just an info, you maybe write in a data extension. And for your developing part, you will probably want to put it in the console as a trace, meaning you basically get everything out of that. And you can set that up with a config file for that as well.
So I'm watching your code, Sascha, and as somebody that does a little bit of time in Node, I was just enjoying looking at some of those commands. I can see they're obviously part of the library that you've put together, the logging commands and the append.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's if you use VS Code, right, and you define classes and things like that, you can then, so for example, if I do prox new WS proxy, so probably a lot of people heard maybe around WS proxy, WS proc, why doesn't it give me, okay, so prox, okay, I need to open it up. Let's do Cloud Page for now, because it needs to be open in the window, otherwise it doesn't work, because again, SSJS doesn't really have classes, so you can't really load it correctly, but Cloud Page, so as soon as you get this icon here, it actually works, and then you can go in and say CP, and then you get all the function in there. So expire cookie, get payload, is token valid, JWT, logout, payload, redirect error, set cookies, and so on and so forth. So, and the same with logger. So if I go to log, you get all the function from the logger as well, if I put that up correctly in here. But yeah, this is, I don't have it open. So like if I need to open it up again here. So now if I do log dot, you get all the information, log levels, JSON appenders, HTTP appenders, and all these type of things.
And they're functions in the libraries that you've got in
yes.
SSJS. Yep.
So they're all well documented, and the information you see is coming from this comment blocks. So that's normal JS documentation. Like if you write SSJS, you always should use JS doc functionalities, because then you get information. So for example, copy logger, or let's say, let's say copy logger. So if I go in here and say dot copy, you actually get then all this information in here. So if I go in there, you actually get also the subcategory, the string, the name of the subcategory, the copy the current logger and settings and blah, 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 blah. So it basically, and then if you type anything in, it then gives you the second part, which is nothing. So you only have one variable expected. And if you develop anything, I would highly recommend an IDE. Visual code is really cool. So if you go in here and write AMPscript a lot, even that there's extensions which are amazing. So if I say output, that already puts me everything in front, right? So I can get this very quickly, and then base64. And if I want to do this, like base64, that all gives me, like, speeds up your coding so much quicker when you use an IDE which has auto completion and things like that. And if your code is written correctly, especially in JavaScript, you get so much more out of it.
With the other one, you almost got a little coding session at the end there, chucked in as well. I am definitely going to go back and watch that video and check out your libraries, because it's a gap. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. It's something I need to do. So I'm looking forward to digging deep into them and having a good look. Are there any more questions? We've still got 23 people in the room watching on. So
it wasn't boring then in the end.
No, it's not super boring. It's all good. But should we wrap up, or what's the feeling? Is there any last minute questions? Anything else we'd like to talk about?
Yeah, anything you want to know, doesn't matter. Doesn't need to be JWT. But just that you're aware, like as I say, I will provide a non-library code for JWT as well, so you can take this into any of your projects and put this code into your working as well. But it will be in SSJS, and it's recommended that you have a basic understanding of SSJS, but it will be bulletproof in a way how it works. So all you technically just need to do, put it in and understand how you do, like creating something like new JWT, and then you can use the function in there. But I will showcase this. So I'll share this code again in the documentation of the sfmcdc.org website. So if there's any last question,
I don't believe so. No, it hasn't changed. Very awesome. Thank you. And I think like Elliot said, just thank you so much for sharing. It's how we all learn. And without you doing what you're doing, Sascha, we don't understand, we don't learn. And I think somewhere somebody once said, together are all experts, but it takes us all to be learning together, and what you're sharing just helps make us all experts as well. So thank you very much.
And if you have any questions after that and you sleep over and say, oh, I want to ask that, feel free to reach out. Sorry? So feel free to reach out to my LinkedIn. It's just my first name dash last name, Sascha Huwald. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming, and enjoy the rest of your week.